The Cap Vendor and the Monkey Troop. Children, today, we will enjoy reading the story of a cap vendor and the monkey troop. Once upon a time in a village, lived a street vendor. He carried all his caps in a big sack, and roamed from village to village selling them. On a midsummer afternoon, traveling in the hot sun, he felt tired, and wanted to rest for a while. At the outskirts of a village, in the woods, he found a very huge banyan tree, with many branches and dense leaves. The tree cast a very cool shadow around itself. The cap vendor was very pleased and said to himself, "This banyan tree is very huge. The cool shade of this tree is very inviting. Also, I do not see any danger of any heavy fruits, like the jackfruit, falling and hurting me while I am asleep. I will rest here for a while and move on to the village." Then he put his sack of caps near the tree trunk, cleared some area at the root of the tree, and fell asleep. The poor cap vendor, however, did not notice that a group of 5 naughty monkeys, living on the tree. The naughty monkeys observed the sleeping cap vendor, wearing the cap over his head, and the sack of caps lying on the ground beside him. They grew curious, as the monkeys always are. Then the leader of the monkeys silently descended from the tree, and approached the sack of caps. It found the sack was open, and there were hundreds of caps neatly stacked up. It pulled out one cap, and put it on its head. It looked very funny. All other monkeys, who were observing their leader wearing a cap, felt very happy, and came down the tree, and joined their leader. Then the leader of the monkeys said, "We are lucky to get so many caps. The caps are white, soft and wonderful. I don't feel the heat of the sun anymore. We will also not be bothered by the fleas over our heads anymore. Further, if we wear these white caps, other wild animals would imagine that we are from another world, and may fear us. Even if one of us gets lost in the woods, it could easily spot our group from a distance, and join us. Therefore, I ask you to pick up one cap each, and wear it on your head." So saying, it climbed up the tree, with a cap over his head. All the monkeys in the troop silently pulled a cap each for itself, put it on their heads and went up the tree. With 5 monkeys wearing the white caps, made a rare and strange spectacle on the tree. The monkeys were hopping from one branch to another with joy, and hailed their leader for gifting them the caps. While the naughty monkeys were thus celebrating, making loud noises, the cap vendor woke up, and found to his dismay, that most of his caps were gone from the sack. Then he looked up the tree and saw all the monkeys were wearing his caps. He was very sad and worried, and said to himself, "How foolish was I, not to notice the monkeys on the tree before. The monkeys are silly, and do not understand that I sell the caps for a living. How can I go up the tree, and catch the monkeys and get back my caps now?" While the cap vendor was scratching his head, the monkeys on the tree started observing the actions of the cap vendor. The cap vendor suddenly remembered what his grandma told him, in his childhood. She told him, "My child, always remember not to go near a monkey, it may harm you. The monkeys are foolish, and do not have brains. They always imitate, the actions of others without thinking." The cap vendor felt excited upon remembering his grandma's words. Then he stood up, and while all the monkeys were intently watching him, he removed his cap, and threw it on the ground. Lo! Noticing the cap vendor throwing down the cap, every monkey removed its cap, and threw it to the ground. The cap vendor hurriedly gathered all the caps in his sack, and ran away from the place happily. Children, what moral we gain from this story? It shows us that when we are faced with a problem, we should always think of a trick to come out of it, and always remember the good things elders have taught us. So much for the poor cap vendor. Children, did you like the story?